asking. They want Iran to give up. They want Iran to do the chicken. So this is a game for them, and they're enjoying it. And you have big American companies already talking about the prospect of going back to Iran, of going back. Remember, they did a deal with them. If you look at the history from the early 1900s, the Americans would do a deal and give you 7%. 6% of the proceeds of Iranian oil at some point until the Qajar dynasty collapsed in the 30s. They would attack it. They will emasculate the country. And we are seeing exactly the same thing in Nigeria. They are giving us 1/3 of the proceeds. Nigeria is earning 30 to 35% of the oil they are digging from the ground. So for 1 barrel of oil that the Americans take from the ground, if it is $90 per barrel, Nigeria is getting $25. This is the level of exploitation. So most of you are saying, oh, Nigeria is an oil-rich country. Absolutely not. So America does not want to use the oil. They want their companies to be there to decide the price and because this is what they have benefited over the years. In the 70s, in the 80s, they see themselves as the largest country on earth in terms of military might, and they can do whatever they want. So these trillions of dollars have to come from somewhere to substitute for the debt, for the reckless spending in America, for this largesse that they are benefiting. The funding has to come from outside. The funding has to come from somewhere else. And in this case, it has to come from countries where they will go and mine resources and give them just a tidbit of it. I want you guys to understand the mentality, the attitude of these people. I want you guys to understand the mentality and the attitude of these people and what they truly think. France did it in Niger. We called it out. The French did it in Niger. We spoke about it extensively. The French were taking uranium from the ground. The best yellow cake comes from Niger. Some of the best uranium ore the French were extracting from Niger, and they were giving Niger 70 or 80 cents per kilogram, not up to $1 or euro. 80 cents they were giving to Niger, and the actual price is 220 euros. So over 4,000 or 3,000%, they were surcharging Niger. They were exploiting them to that tone. And when you speak to people in France, for instance, and they can't understand why Niger is protesting against their rule. They can't understand why these Africans are so, they have so much animosity for France. They can't understand why these Africans have so much animosity towards them. And they were even angry in the parliament. They held a section, and there was a black guy in the parliament, and they told him, now you can go back to your country because you guys are driving us out of your country and you are living in our country. That's what they told the guy in parliament in France. White European men and women stood up and told the black guy in parliament, now it's time for you to go. I'm not talking about people on the street. I'm talking about in parliament, in protest that the Nigerian government said, hang on a second, this cannot continue. And the government of Mohamed Bazoum at that time was not able to do that. So it has to take a military coup to remove the government, to unearth the rot within the system. And it's exactly the same thing we are seeing today in the region. This massive American military buildup, putting political pressure on the government in Tehran. The purpose of it is to emasculate, is to weaken, in order to negotiate with them for largesse, for economic benefits. You guys are looking at different directions. The Americans are saying if we can't benefit from it, nobody will. If we can't exploit you, China will not benefit from it. This is the argument. They are saying if we cannot benefit from it, if we are not going to exploit you, nobody else will benefit from the oil. This is why we are going to sanction you. This is why we are going to make sure that you suffer. 90 million people in Iran. 90 million people in Iran. They are saying if we can't benefit from it, nobody will. It's your choice. You have to make a decision. If we cannot benefit from it, if we are not allowed to exploit you, nobody else is going to benefit from it. This is the position of the United States of America. And as we speak today, conversations are now being had about the possibility of American oil companies now going back to Iran in partnership with Iran for sanctions relief. And then they can continue the conversations on Iran's nuclear program. And then they can continue the conversations on Iran's ballistic missile program. And then they can continue the conversation on Iran's support for proxies in the region. So it's like putting the cart before the horse. Are you guys with me? Let's rewind. Let's rewind and go back again to where I started. Updates, guys. Breaking news. America's mobilization have reached almost full capacity. It has reached its crescendo. And they are also mobilizing in Europe, in Central Europe, in countries like Bulgaria, in Romania, because those places are in proximity to the Middle East or to Western Asia. So they can carry out flights from there to bomb Iran using different airspace, or even using the Caspian, flying through Azerbaijan and using the Caspian to bomb Iran from the north, to bomb the likes of Tabriz, to bomb the like of, of Tehran, and to target cities in the north, because this is where the economic heart of Iran is. The massive population concentration in the north of Iran. So there is enormous mobilization going on there. And of course, there is mobilization going on around the region. And the Iranian Supreme Leader said something recently that I want you guys to understand. He said, yeah, the Americans can mobilize all they want, but there's a premium to it. If they continue to do this, there will be a price to pay. If the Americans continue to do this with the goal of destroying our country, we will emasculate them and we will show them. Well, if you ask me, I don't think Iran is a match for the United States Army. The U.S. Army and the U.S. military is in full combat readiness and in combat mode. The U.S. military is in full combat readiness and in combat mode. The U.S. military is in full combat readiness and combat mode. So they are ready to go. And what a lot of people don't understand is that it is misleading. It is very misleading to think that the U.S., the intention of America is just to go there, bomb and go home, or it's just to go there and to remove the leader and replace them, the leader with the son of the erstwhile Shah, or replace the leader and then make things stabilize the country. If the U.S. find it difficult to actually stabilize the country, they will destabilize it. And when I visited the live stream earlier, and this is part of the conversation I've been having, we're now seeing an attempt in the area around, the Iraqi border to mobilize the Kurds against Iran, because the Kurds have their own intention, they have their own ambition of having their own state. And as we saw in Syria, the Americans also supported them, using them as a counterweight against the government in Damascus against Assad, removed Assad and brought in Jolani, and now handed them over back to Jolani. So although they are playing this game of say, oh, let's support you, we are going to support our allies in the Kurds to give them more power and autonomy, but they will not allow them to have their own state, because that will be against the interest of Turkey, that will be against the interest of Iraq, that will be against the interest of Iran. That can spark up the Americans are managing this carefully, and they have to manage it carefully, because you don't want to piss off the Turks. You don't want to piss off Iraq. You don't want to start a situation of an all-out arms conflict in the region to create complete chaos, a total breakdown of law and order. That is not what you are seeking. That is not what you are looking for. That is not what you are looking for. And if you're looking for that, good luck with that. I wish you the best of luck, if that is what America is seeking at this point. So the conversation is, what exactly is the goal of America's mobilization in Iran? The argument is about their nuclear program. It's part of it. They don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons because they believe that if those guys have those weapons, then it will change the balance of power in the region, and they don't want that to happen because Iran is also an adversary of the United States. Call it for what you want to call it. And I'm also one of the biggest critics of the Americans, but the Americans also have a legitimate claim to say, hang on a second, we look at the map of this region, we see the map of this region. Why on earth should we allow you to have these weapons? Why on earth should we allow you to have it? Because if you have it, that will go against our own interest. That is going to go against our interest. And if our interest is not going to be, if our interest is not going to be captured, we're not going to allow you to have it. And if you are going to take your oil and sell it to China and make China prosperous to allow them to have enough money to fund the Russia-Ukraine conflict, quote unquote, or to stand up against us, or to embolden them in the Middle East and stretch Chinese influence in the Middle East to give them energy security, that is not in our interest. This is what they're saying. And I'm going to show you guys. There's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot of layers to this that you guys need to understand. There's a lot of layers to this. There's a lot of dynamics to this that you guys need to understand. So the idea that America is just doing this foolishly and so on and so forth. No, America is also acting in the interest of the United States of America. And that must be understood loud and clear. But Iran is also acting in the interest of Iran. And in a struggle among equals, the weak will suffer what they must, and the strong will do what they want, according to Thucydides, the father of modern day history. When he wrote the first history book, The History of the Peloponnesian War. And it was the rise of Athens, the rise of Sparta that threatened the power, which was Athens at that time, that eventually and inevitably led to conflict between both entities or between both city-states. But let's take a look at this map. I'm going to zoom into this map. I want you guys to take a good look at this map. So this is Saudi Arabia. The Saudis have their own interest in the Persian Gulf and in the sea. The Omanis are there as well observing. So this place is a melting pot. It's a political minefield. This whole area is a political minefield. This whole area is a political minefield. So you have the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden. This is the Arabian Sea. Now, let's go to the island of Diego Garcia. This is Socotra Island, by the way. Kalancia, this is Socotra Island. You see this small island? The Emiratis took this island during the conflict against Yemen, and then they are setting up military bases and assets with the Israelis in this area. This is why the Saudis are worried. It's a fight over control. It's a fight over influence. So this is the whole of the Arabian Sea. The U.S. controls and dominates this area. So if you go down a little bit, you see countries like Maldives. Let's zoom in a little bit so you guys can have a clearer picture. So this is the map. This is the map of the world. But if you begin to zoom in a little bit like this, you see that Iran holds a very strategic position when it comes to the politics of this region. Iran is very important. Iran, the importance of Iran cannot be overemphasized. Iran is sacrosanct to the stability of the region. Iran is inevitable. The stability of Iran, it's so cardinal to the stability of the region. And Iran is the biggest country. I think Iran is even bigger than Saudi Arabia or so in terms of landmass, or almost equal to Saudi Arabia. And in population, Iran is bigger. But Iran has also some topographical challenges that a military invasion of Iran will be near impossible, particularly in the center and in the south and in the north, on the border with Turkmenistan and Afghanistan. That whole area itself is very vulnerable. That whole area itself, it's already very volatile. That whole area itself is already very, very volatile. So again, we need to have a conversation. Let's have an actual conversation of what the Americans are doing. Is this sensible? What is the objective of this? And what will end up happening if the Americans, fail? If there's a giant fail, what will happen? Let's have this conversation. We need to have a real conversation on what might happen if if it doesn't pan out well, if it doesn't go well. What will happen? Let's have a conversation. So, like I said, Iran is the land bridge between South Asia and Western Asia. The capital city of Iran is Tehran, the biggest city. It has a population of close to 12 million people, between 11 and 12 million people. It is way bigger than New York. And if you go to on the border with the Caspian Sea, now this is the Caspian Sea. It shares it with Azerbaijan. It shares it with Turkmenistan. It shares it with Kazakhstan. It shares it with Russia. It shares it with, this is Russia, by the way. So this is also very important to Russia. The stability of this area is important to Russia. And recently, the Americans signed an agreement with Armenia to prevent the talks expanding and creating the Zangezur corridor. So the Armenia here is hosting now American military bases to stop the conflict and the tensions between Armenia and Azerbaijan. And that also affects Turkey and affects Iran. So it's a layer. This is multi-layered and multifaceted. All of this is multi-layered and multifaceted. And there's an important statement from the Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. He stated recently that the Americans can come and the Americans have all this power, but there's weakness. And he threatened to sink an American aircraft carrier with 5,000 personnel on board. That is enormous. The aircraft carrier have no defense. It can only stay on the sea. So how do you deal with sunk in the high sea? Well, they say that it has frigate, it has all sort of protection around it, it has submarines. But if you fire missiles repeatedly at it, one of them will get through, one or two of them. And we saw that in the war between Israel and Iran. Israel, as a state, have far more defense in its territory than one aircraft carrier can carry. In terms of air defense, in terms of all the logistical and all the kinetic support that the state of Israel, which is on land, will need against Iran. And the Iranians proved that it can be attacked. And they did it during the 12-day war. Now we're talking about an aircraft carrier that don't have the same amount of protection on the sea. And don't get me wrong, it has enormous protection. But if Iran fires, let's say Iran fires 2,000 missiles at it, one of them gets through to it and hit the wrong place, it will sink. And now we are talking about between 5,000 personnel on board. And you have two of these aircraft carriers here. And I'm sure you guys also heard what I think the Chinese Rear Admiral Luo Yuan. Now, Rear Admiral, Chinese naval, high-ranking officer, that China should consider sinking two American aircraft carriers and sinking with it 10,000 American personnel and see how they react. In his words, what they're scared most of is taking casualties. Let's see how they react. He said they are scared of taking casualties. Let's see how they actually react. This is a very important topic, and we must be very clear on that. And let's go again to the point of the Saudis and their Emiratis and all these countries in the region now saying we don't want war with Iran. Well, they are gauging and assessing the pros and cons. While they want Iran weakened, they don't want a destruction of Iran. A complete destruction of Iran will affect Saudi Arabia. because you have a lot of Shias in Saudi Arabia. In terms of having a direct border with Saudi Arabia, Iran does not have a direct contiguous border with Saudi Arabia, but Kuwait does. Kuwait and Iraq, they have. Imagine the migration that will happen and how that will affect Saudi Arabia and the instability to create in the region. The Americans already have military assets in Kuwait. They already have their presence in the choke point in Basra. Iraq have access to the sea in Basra, and people look at Kuwait and the reason why Saddam wanted to go there, because if Iraq had taken Kuwait, which is one of the provinces, if you like, one of the governorates of Iraq, it has always been like that until the British came in. So if Iraq was able to take Kuwait, and I'll show you guys on the map in a second, take a look at this. Now, this is what I'm trying to explain. This is Saudi Arabia. This is Iran. They don't have a common border. This is the United Arab Emirates. And now this is the Persian Gulf. You know, the Arabs call it the Arabian Gulf. Now, this is the Persian Gulf. And this is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, this place is on the... Now, this is Bandar Abbas. It's a beautiful city. And this used to be like a holiday destination in the 70s and the 80s, the 60s, the 70s, when the Shah was in power. A lot of Americans used to go here for holiday and enjoy themselves. People now talk about going to the likes of Dubai. People go to holiday in Brazil. They go to holiday in Qatar. You know, people go to holiday. People used to, Americans, rich Americans, go on holidays to Bandar Abbas, which used to be Bandar Shah, which is the port of Abbas. Now, this beautiful, beautiful city. But the point I'm making here, which is a political point, is that the destruction of Iran portends grave danger for the region. It will sow a seed of chaos in the region. We are already seeing that. And Iran had made it clear that if America come in, the military bases in the region, the one they have in Kuwait, will be hit. The military bases in Iraq will be hit. The military base in Al Udeid in Qatar, which the Americans, according to satellite images, are now emptying, will be hit. And they have all these bases in Saudi Arabia. This is the Holy Land. Nigerians will say, oh, we go to Saudi Arabia, you go to Mecca or whatever, or Medina, you are closer to heaven. And these guys are actually the birthplace of Islam, if I'm not mistaken. And yet they are playing with the devil. And yet they are aligning themselves with the Americans. And yet they are playing with the devil and holding a long spoon. This is very important for us to note. So if the Americans decide at this point to go and attack Iran, what will happen is that Kuwait will pay, and Kuwait is within range. I mean, this whole idea that Iran should target Israel and Israel is the easiest one to target, no. It costs a lot of money to target Israel. Iran can do it, of course, but all these ballistic missiles you send from Iran to target Israel, thousands of kilometers away, about 2,500 to 3,000 kilometers away, that should, Iran is not going to waste their resources. They'll take the same weapons, fire directly at Kuwait. And the impact, there's no air defense system on Earth that can stop it. People talk about air defense. There's no air defense system on Earth that can stop it. There's no air defense system on Earth that can save those American military bases in Iraq. And yet, Iran also have influence in Iraq with over 200,000 strong militia called the Hashd al-Shabi, the Popular Mobilization Forces, or the PMF. This group was formed in 2014 as a coalition as a result of a fatwa from the Grand Ayatollah Ali Sistani, who is the head of the Hausa of Najaf, the most important religious figure in Iraq today and in the region, as a matter of fact, mostly for Shia. Thousands of people, millions of people follow Sistani. They have never seen him before. He's a revered figure. So when the Israelis, during the war with Iran, or during the war with the Palestinians, were talking about going to assassinate Sistani, well, that would have started World War III already, immediately. So America and President Trump, I believe they are using this military pressure as a stick to pressure Iran to sign agreements. And the special envoy himself, Steve Witkoff, said he can't understand. He said, what is wrong with these people? The special envoy, Steve Witkoff, is saying, what is wrong with these people? It's been 2 weeks or 3 weeks already of pressure, and you guys are unwilling to capitulate and give up. Just give up. Stop resisting this. Just give up and make it easier for us. They are saying, give up already. Make it easier for us. There's no need for you to try to fight. Enough is enough. An attack on Iran will be the beginning of the end of the international order as we have it today. And don't get me wrong, because a lot of people think that when I'm saying this, that, oh, well, because, you know, I'm comparing the military power of Iran with America. This is not how it works. Iran is a banana peel. You already have problems in Afghanistan. You have problems in Pakistan. Turkmenistan is stable, but you can create instability there with a lot of jihadists. We saw them. They went to Syria to fight from Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, from the Tibetan autonomous region area, from the Chinese Xinjiang province. Over 5,000 fighters from China crossed to Syria to fight with Daesh. So if you are going to go on the path of trying to create tensions in the region, to try to create problems for Iran, it's going to be very difficult. And don't forget, guys, let's hit the like button, guys. There's a live go there. Don't forget as well, there's a link to my YouTube on my bio. You can follow me on that place as well. Don't forget to like and share. It's very important, guys. Let's power tap and share in order to protect the live stream. Protect the live stream by power tapping and sharing as we continue the conversation. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel as well. We are available on all platforms, on Facebook, on YouTube, and on TikTok. Thank you so much for joining. So, like I explained earlier, the Americans are mobilizing and they're getting ready because this is going to be an all-out war. And it's not just one dimension. It's not just Western Asia or South Asia or what they call Middle East. It's also going to affect Africa. And this is what I try to understand and explain to Africans as well. Most Africans are saying this is not our cup of tea. If they want to destroy Iran, let them go there and do it. It's not our business. And some of them from my own region are saying, well, these are all Muslims. Who cares? Some of them are saying, oh, it's not our business. These guys are also bleeding us in Africa. Who cares about what goes on there? This is the argument that some Africans, some of them that have their own animosity against Arabs and Muslims are also making. And even some in Africa as well that have their own issues with the West are also saying, hang on a second, but we shouldn't get ourselves involved in it. Well, you have seen it already, that you did not get yourself involved from the beginning, and yet they took the fight to Sudan. They are already breaking up and destroying Libya. Well, if you're going to say, oh, these guys are Arabized countries, what about Eritrea? We're now seeing tensions in Ethiopia as a result of that. And there's a likelihood of an invasion of Eritrea very soon by the same proxies, by exactly the same people. The UAE is now a Trojan horse doing the bidding of these same powers with an attempt to implement the Avram Accords. So let's have this real conversation about what is going on in the region, ladies and gentlemen. Let's have a conversation about what is going on in the region. And why is this area so important? Why is this area so important in terms of the geopolitical, the geostrategic importance of this area? Why is this area so important? Let's have a real conversation about this topic. Now, like I said earlier, conversations, negotiations are going on between America and Iran for economic partnership. Nobody saw this coming. Again, you have to be careful not to be misled, because the Americans might use that as a softener to allow Iran to drop their guard. We saw that again during the conflict. They do that sometimes to allow them to sort of get them to a position of dropping their guard and say, well, now that we are getting these positive talks and the Americans are trying to invest in our economy or trying to bring their oil companies here, they cannot attack us anymore. And boom, 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 the regime is caught off guard. They are prepared. They are ready. They know that the Americans are coming, and they know that the U.S. is going to overwhelm Iran. There's no doubt about that. The U.S. will overwhelm Iran. They will use the principle of shock and awe, and they have all this kinetic firepower to subdue Iran. And the U.S. is bragging about having discombobulator, or whatever you call it, as they used in they claim to have used it in Venezuela. And Trump is bragging about it. Oh, we have this. Oh, we have that. We have all these weapons that we have not even used yet. And we can jam their signal. We can make sure they can't use their equipment. Well, you can do that with countries like Venezuela. Let's see how you're able to do that in Iran. They have all these assets, scattered around the country, with different commanders in different areas having, autonomy to sort of do whatever and carry out orders, and sub-commanders at every level. They have seen what happened to the hierarchical structure in Lebanon. When they took out the major commanders, it became impossible for Hezbollah to fight. That is not going to be the case with Iran. Iranians have learned, and they'll continue to learn. This is now a learning curve, ladies and gentlemen. So let's talk about these aircraft carriers. So I'm going to show you this video. Let's talk about the aircraft carriers and this whole idea of trying to say, oh, well, let's do X, Y, Z, and
Chinese hawks, independently of the US, are on the ascendant. In your country, on 20th of December, Chinese Rear Admiral Luo Yuan said the Chinese Navy should consider sinking 2 US aircraft carriers and killing 10,000 US service personnel. What the United States fears the most is taking casualties. We'll see how frightened America is.
So much power.
I don't take these types of comments seriously. So much influence. The chance of a war between the two sides is
so
minimal.
Much power. We have so much influence. So I'm going to play this video if you can. For those of you watching, let me show you. I'm going to play this video. So this is when Xi Jinping came to power. There were conversations that were to be had.
Chinese hawks, independently of the US, are on the ascendant. In your country, on 20th of December, Chinese Rear Admiral Luo Yuan said the Chinese Navy should consider sinking 2 US aircraft carriers and killing 10,000 US service personnel. What the United States fears the most is taking casualties. We'll see how frightened America is.
Oh, I don't take these type of comments seriously. The chance of a war between the
US
I'm going to play it again so you understand, you hear it well.
Chinese hawks, independently of the US, are on the ascendant. In your country, on 20th of December, Chinese Rear Admiral Luo Yuan said the Chinese Navy should consider sinking 2 US aircraft carriers and killing 10,000 US service personnel. What the United States fears the most is taking casualties. We'll see how frightened America is.
Oh, I don't take these type of comments seriously. The chance of a war between the two sides is minimal.
Basically, China have already been making this, and if the Chinese Navy is already talking about this, and this is why China is not willing to do all that nonsense. China is building capable vessels, but not large in terms of $10–15 billion vessels in that sense. They are building very small, maneuverable, vessels that are able to be maneuvered. I can't pronounce the word. Yeah, in a sense. But they're not building these large aircraft carriers with the intention of, doing what the Americans are doing, because to them, the bigger, the better. Imagine sinking 2 of that, sinking 1 of it. And what happens to the morale? If you sink 1 of it, then the second one, they will take it away from there. So these aircraft carriers are sitting ducks. They are large. They are immovable objects. They are very slow and lazy and unable to move. So you can imagine if Iran is able to do it and what China can do to you. That is the beginning of the end of America's expeditionary power. The reason the US can go to where they want is because they bring in this aircraft carrier and begin to The aircraft carrier and the battle group is what is bringing in the firepower, all the missiles and everything. So if you hit it and set it ablaze, it will implode in itself. You need to understand that, because it's carrying a lot, tons of equipment, that can be set ablaze. So if you do that, the impact of that on the environment itself, it's carrying nuclear capabilities, carrying everything. So if you hit it, it's going to be an earthquake. I'm telling you, if you hit it and it explodes, it's going to be a giant earthquake. So this aircraft carriers is a moving coffin, and it can be sunk. And Iran has shown us that if you pressure the Americans, you can force them to stand down. Trump is now saying he's giving them between 10 to 15 days, starting from Thursday. 10 to 15 days, and we can see another one, 20 to 40 days. It will go on and on and on until they have some sort of understanding. There will be some sort of understanding in my view. Eventually, there will be some sort of understanding. That will eventually happen. I think America is going to use reverse engineering. Well, I don't know about that, but again, at the end of the day, if Iran says they are going to do it, there's a possibility of them doing it. And if they do it, that is the beginning of the end of the American empire. The US depends on this. This is the life of America. The US depends on this. This is the beginning of the end of America's power if they do this. So the whole idea that we should be afraid of them, they are coming, Daddy America is coming to do this, and they have all this power in the world, and nobody should challenge them. Don't challenge them, because if you challenge America, you'll be turned to dust and rubble. Well, we will find out in Iran. We will find out. Eventually,